Yay, Elizabeth is our presenter today. I want to tell you anecdotally as a priest how many times I've worked with families who didn't know, they didn't have a clue what their loved ones wanted to have happen. And it spans a range of issues. One is end-of-life decision-making. You know, how long would somebody be unconscious? How long would somebody be non-responsive? All of those kinds of things about do not resuscitate and all of that. Those are really difficult decisions for families to make in the crush of a health crisis, right? So those are great. That's a great set of instructions to be leaving your family so they have a sense of your wishes when it comes to that. But I've also, in the days and weeks after somebody passes, I've had families fight over things you wouldn't necessarily think about. Is it going to be an open coffin or closed? Is it going to be a cremation or is it going to be a whole body burial? That right there, I've seen brothers and sisters fight for years because one of them got their way and the other didn't, and so they're mad at each other for years. Now, while their parent, is long gone, right? And what is the parent's last wish? Probably that their kid, probably at least in the top 5 of their last wishes was, I sure would like my kids to get along once I'm gone, right? And so for that to be a divisive issue that lasts sometimes for years, quite frankly, it's absurd. But it's hard to say that in the moment to these grieving people, like, you're being dumb, stop it. But I try to gently remind them, like, what do you really think your parents wanted you to be doing right now? Probably not fighting about this. And so instead of actually stopping fighting, they're just nice in front of the priest. Okay, right? We're going to be nice in front of the priest, and then we're going to get back to not liking each other as soon as this thing is over. And we're going to, and it just adds another. Usually, there's layers of family not getting along, and it just adds another layer to it. But anyway, I've seen sisters screaming at each other, trying to bury their mother who was recently deceased. I've seen people fighting over what the music's going to be at a service. I've seen people fighting over, is it going to be inside the church or is it going to be outside the church? Well, Mama wouldn't want that. If you tell them what you want, there's no question. I mean, they'll still find a reason to fight, but at least you won't be the reason that they're fighting. It is a traumatic time when somebody loses someone that they're close to. Christians teach each other that in that traumatic time, we're already gone. We're in heaven. We're in God's holy embrace. We are experiencing our resurrected life at some level after our passing. So this is a tremendous gift that we can give to the people that are still here on the planet, dealing with the issues of kind of closing things down for us and all of that, is giving them a robust set of instructions that are compassionate and thoughtful about how you want things to be, and give them a sense of, okay, if I do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 like my parents asked or whatever, then I will have satisfied and honored their wishes. Very few people get that opportunity because very few people leave behind a good set of instructions. So I'm cheering for all of us as we do this important work. Thank you. Elizabeth?
No. Oh, yeah, that's yours. Well, welcome, everybody. Let's get our ducks in a row. I hope everybody got the volume of handouts today, and we got smarter, and we clipped them all together for you so it wouldn't be a mass confusion in the back. And for anyone that wasn't here last week or didn't get all of the copies from last week, there are last week's copies back there as well. And this is being recorded, so if you do watch this on YouTube, you can contact the church for the handouts. We'll get them to you, and the contact information is, if you're watching from home, in the YouTube, underneath the YouTube video. So let's just begin. This is an interactive service presentation session. So if you have any questions or comments, just raise your hand, and we'll be glad to discuss them. This is information that I have gleaned. I am no professional at this, and there's lots and lots of resources online for you, but as I said last week, this came as a result of having lots of time during the pandemic, so I have just gleaned. Anyway, So let's jump into the information. The first page is about your medical insurance, and this isn't anything groundbreaking. You all know this probably, but I dare ask how many have actually done this. If you make copies of your insurance cards, your medical insurance cards, front and back, if you've got copies of your insurance policies, or if they're online, your access information so someone can find your insurance information. Names, addresses, etc., telephone numbers of all of your physicians, all of your doctors, list of your current medications, any additional information that might be needed, like your blood type, maybe your vaccination history, any allergies, any family history. Because again, this information is valuable for when you pass on. But what if you're in some sort of an accident or have a medical emergency and you're still here? So someone might need to have access to this information. And then if you're on Medicaid, any of your Medicaid information, if you can have it all in one spot. This also might be a great place to put your living will that Vicki Bowers talked about last week, and also your Medicare information authorization. I found that interesting that your living will doesn't apply to Medicare because that's a federal agency, not a state agency. So I'd also like to say this session will be significantly shorter than last week's, which I'm sure you're happy about. Okay, let's move on to the next fun page. When you find me dead, day one. You need to call the non-emergency telephone number for the police. This is if you're at home and suddenly you pass away. Now, if you are under Medicare, hospice care, you do not have to call the police. You would call hospice. They can declare you dead, and everything moves on from there. If you're not under hospice care, then you need to call the police. And the police will come to your home, and they will not leave your home until you have called a funeral home or a crematorium. So if you haven't made those arrangements, the police could be with you for a while. And that's the worst time to make such an important decision. So I urge you all, if you don't do anything, make that decision. Go meet with those folks, get things arranged, and hopefully prepaid if possible. I know I've done that with the crematorium, and it's such a peace of mind for me and my grandson, although he doesn't know it yet. Okay, again, this is day one. So when you pass away, who are the people that immediately need to know? Your children, your close family members. It's not everybody in your contact list. It's just this is your immediate contacts. And put their telephone numbers here. I mean, people might say, well, the kids have gotten the numbers. Well, this is no time to make anyone search for a telephone number. And then let your loved ones know who you have talked to about handling your arrangements. Is it an attorney? Is it a loved one? Is it a neighbor? Because somebody's going to have to handle that. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather know now who's going to handle it than possibly the wrong person handles it. And they don't follow your instructions. And if there's no instructions, how can they follow your instructions? Call your minister if that's appropriate, if that applies to you. Call the funeral home or the crematorium and have all of that information here. I have attached the contract that I have with the crematorium. So it's right here. They have the number. Everything's all in one spot. And what's nice with making prearrangements like that is that most of the time then you don't have to worry later about your ashes getting to where you want them to be or the casket. They will arrange all of that, and they will call Social Security and let them know that you are no longer here. Okay, day two. Oh, yes. So if I can paraphrase what you just said for those folks watching at home that can't hear this, is that it's very important to talk to your children or whomever might be taking care of your arrangements what you do want so that they don't get to the funeral home and pick out the most gorgeous, luscious casket and make all of these arrangements that will cost a lot of money and not be what you wanted to have happen. Okay, day 2. In this day of social media, do you want your announcement to be put on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever? If you don't say no, in this world, everybody, the younger generation, communicates that way. So you might want to make it clear you do or you do not want to be on social media. Notify your attorney. Yes. You can. Okay. There is an option on Facebook that you can designate somebody to go ahead and take over your account, manage your account after you're gone. Good to know. Thank you. Notify your attorney if you do have one. Like Vicki was talking last week, you know, the moment you pass, you want to let your attorney know so that many of the things you've put in place can fall in place so that your loved ones can have immediate access to your funds to pay for your funeral or services. That's very important. And do you have a burial plot? That's also very important, which children might not know about. These are subjects, or this is a subject that so many people just don't want to discuss. And they think it's too soon to talk about this until it's too late to talk about this. So again, this is a spot to put together this information, especially on day 2. What are we going to do with mom and dad, you know? And these are some questions that the funeral home or the crematorium will ask you. The number of death certificates you want. And you can get them with or without the cause. I had no clue. I ordered like 10, bless you. I ordered like 10, and they were $30 a piece, I think. And in this day and time, I didn't even have to send an original to life insurance, which I thought was unusual. I just made a copy and emailed it to them. So don't make the same mistake I made. Be very conscious of how many you want, maybe just a couple. You can always go back and get more, but they can be costly. This was $30, and it was 5 years ago. Are you an organ donor? Mine will probably be all worn out, hopefully, by the time I pass away. Maybe I'll donate it to science. Do you have a pacemaker? Do you have any devices or implants in your body? And if you'll look, the next page is a list of all of the people that you do want to contact. You want these people to hear about your passing before they read it in the newspaper or hear it on Facebook or just hear it. So this is a sample form that you can fill in. Okay. Then, yes, ma'am. I know. Hold on, and I'll get to that, and I'll explain why. The next page in your handout says the vital statistic form. You need to fill this out and give that also to the funeral home or the crematorium. They need to attach this with the death certificate. Now, if your loved ones can fill this out or provide the information by memory, that'd be great, but I wouldn't count on it. Especially if you're looking for if you've got a surviving spouse, parents, or if you were a veteran. That's really important. So, and then the next page is if you want to be a organ donor. That's the website to go to register yourself as a organ donator. Now, back to your question. What happens next? Contact the Department of Motor Vehicles to cancel that person's driver's license. Have your mail forwarded and stop any regular deliveries. This is all because there is so much corruption going around today. So many people are being scammed out of their identities, out of, their money, et cetera, et cetera. This is recommended to do this as soon as possible, especially before, say, an obituary comes out and some bad person jumps on and tries to steal your identity. So that's the purpose of that. Okay, so let's move. Yes. Yeah, that's part of, yeah. Yeah, Nikki was saying that you can, when you get your driver's license renewed, they ask you if you want to be an organ donor or if you are an organ donor. Oh, yeah, because, yeah, they do. They do. Okay. Okay, that's an excellent point. If you are an organ donator, it probably will take much longer. But the good news is, excuse me, they will cremate you for free. So, and cremation is not cheap. So there's pluses and minuses. Any other questions about these first 2 days? Okay, let's move on then. Oh, Nancy. Well, for example, if it's suicide, and you might not want that to share that with people, um, or a drug overdose or something like that, Yes. Yes. Some life insurance policies do require a cause of death. John? Well, John has just mentioned that it's helpful when this happens to have cash on hand. There again, that was part of last week's presentation from Vicki on being able to release your checking account to your loved one immediately. You can either put that in your trust, which will go in effect immediately on your death, or on your checking account, you've got a pay on death too. So, if you've got that and it's a child or your trust, like mine is pay on death to my trust. And once you contact my attorney, then all of that goes into action and they would have immediate access to my checking account if there's anything in it. Well, John just mentioned that might be an alternative to buying a life insurance policy to cover your burial. However, that pays for the service versus coming out of your checking account. Okay. All right, let's move on. The next page then is child care. If you have children under the age of 18, this is just some of the information you might want to gather. I don't know if many of us have children under the age of 18 anymore. But that brings me to a different point. Once they're 18, they need to start learning about all of this as well. And no 18-year-old I know wants to think about this. But there is a hospice document back there, a booklet, that allows you to lay out some basic wishes, I guess, for if anything were to happen to me. To him. And I've given it to him to read, and please let me know. And we had quite an interesting conversation about if he was in an accident, and he didn't pass away. He was still here, but, not able to take care of himself. So, he thought it was ridiculous at first, but unfortunately he had a young friend that went through that. And if their parents had had a little more insight, it might not have been quite so painful for them. Okay, next page, pet care. I thought it was really interesting that Vicki Bowers, our attorney, talks about the fact that she can do a power of attorney and a trust for their pets. Okay, darling. Okay, bye. Okay, you're welcome. Thank you. I'm sorry. That's okay. It's quite all right. I'll need to get with Julie. But again, if something happens to you, what's going to happen to your pet? What do you want to have happen? Maybe you've got children who don't love pets, but you love them. So if you haven't laid it out for them, maybe even identified who's willing to take the pet, what might happen to that pet? I shudder to think. So you might want to write that down. And I'm not going to go through all of this. I mean, it's kind of common sense information. All right, the goodbye letter. Has anybody thought about that? We've got time now to write a letter to our children, to our loved ones. And this Stanford 7 Vital Task of Life Review. This is an incredible website. It has videos, it has templates, it has samples of goodbye letters. So if you just don't know where to begin, we in the office talk about making our crappy first draft of anything. Just get something on paper and then you can manipulate it and fine-tune it. This is an excellent website, and the website is on the back of the page. It's really good. And also, you might want to write a few notes to friends that have been particularly meaningful in your life, or not. Yes, Cheryl? Exactly. I mean, Cheryl has brought up the point that it's very important to send those letters now, possibly, especially to friends who mean so much to you. Don't wait until after you're gone. Excellent point, Cheryl.
Or somebody that you want to know how much you appreciate what they've done for you.
Right.
They might die before you.
Good point. Excellent point. Any other comments?
You might also consider the thought going to the mind of the children of the dead parent, and the children asks, Mother, Father, when are you ever going to give up control? And the example of that is you mentioned certificates of authentication. The state of North Carolina, I discovered, is trying to handle the scams and so forth in this area, and they have come to the position that any document that you have that will tell them that you are the executor, for example, of the will, you could, in any official capacity, any document that represents that, as far as they're concerned, it's null and void if it's older than a year. You must have to get it renewed
Well, that's very interesting.
from the state that you got it from.
Okay, the point was just brought up that in the state of North Carolina, and that's why it's so important. Every state is very different. The fact that, I guess, basically all of your legal documents would have to be renewed, reauthorized every year. That's not the case in Florida, however. But that's a good point that you need to make sure that all of your documents giving someone else authority to act on your account are up to date. So it's always a good thing to check your documents that you've paid handsomely, probably, from an attorney, to look at them every year and say, do you want to make any changes? You know, who I was going to leave it to last year is not the person I wanted to talk to today or leave it to today. So that's a good point.
Problem with that presented for me, I'd rather die in the state of Texas, and I have certificate establishing my responsibilities. The question for me was to the state of North Carolina, will Texas now issue an outdated certification or authentication? Will there be anybody there? And all they could say was, if you have that problem, we'll help you try to resolve it by talking to the state of Texas.
Yeah, yes, all of this can get very tricky and very entangled. Okay, let's move on to funeral responsibilities. Okay, number one under funeral responsibilities is talking about your obituary. I don't know about you, but I don't think I can write my own obituary. I don't want to write my own obituary. However, if you look at the following document, it just asks you, what would you like to include in your obituary so that your loved one, whoever is writing the obituary, if they write one, knows that it's important to you. I want people to know where I went to school, for example. I want people to know I was a veteran. I want people to know about my parents, about my children, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what that next page is. Anything that comes to mind that you would like folks to know or remember. A couple of years ago, there was a hilarious obituary in the paper from a Southern woman who had written it, and it was just hysterical, very funny. In fact, it made national news. I don't know that we can live up to that, but as Reverend John was mentioning briefly earlier, the location of your funeral, and do you want it to be a public or private? Maybe you just want a private, families only funeral. Let them know. Do you want a visitation? Yes or no? The name of the clergy or the funeral home or the speaker. Perhaps you just want to have a small group go out on the beach and have a little memorial service. Well, who do you want that to be? Who's going to lead that? Who's going to organize this? Your cemetery lot. If you do have a cemetery lot, where is it? What's the information about it? Put it here. Or cremation. Now, with the company I went with, they are going to transfer my ashes to the National Cemetery where my parents and my husband are buried, and they will take care of all of those arrangements. And the Veterans Administration pay for the marker, which is a wonderful thing. So the next question is, where do you want your ashes to be dispersed if you are going to be cremated? The Veterans National Cemetery is already getting full. And when I was out there 5 years ago, I thought I heard them say you can make reservations. So if that's something you want to do, I'm sure it's not quite like booking a hotel, but you might want to give them a call and see if you can reserve a spot for you and or your husband. And I was not in the military, but because my husband was, I am able to be buried along with him and have my own marker on the other side of the marker.
The last thing I saw on that was that you do not have to reserve a space. There will always be a space for you, and that the funeral home will make that happen.
Okay, it was just said that there will always be a spot. My only thought is, what if there's no land? I mean, and they have to acquire more land, and it might not be in Jacksonville. I mean, I think that was the point. It's getting so full so fast that by the time, hopefully not anytime soon, you want to be buried there, there would still be land here in Jacksonville for you to be buried there. Well, again, but, you know, if you can take care of that now, that's one less worry. Alan, did you have a question? Wow. Columbarium? Yeah, the columbariums. So the point was made that Evergreen Cemetery has over 90,000 people buried. Wow, and over a century. Okay, and the grave marker, oh, Cheryl.
I was just wondering, if you want your ashes scattered, how do you find out where it's legal to do that?
The sun is down, it's legal everywhere.
If the question was, if you want your ashes to be scattered, how do you find out where it's legal? And some voice in the crowd said, if it's after dark, it's legal. I had a friend whose father absolutely loved golf, so he took his father's ashes and put a hole in his pocket, and as he went from hole to hole, he would just sprinkle a few ashes on each hole. So I thought that was pretty clever. And I know here at St. George, if you want to be buried in the memorial garden and you want a plaque, you need to make sure we've got the information for you and your desire. If you're a veteran, yes, John.
I also just want to point out, if you've never had any experience with it, I have, these ashes are more like powder. They're not.
No, yeah, right, okay.
I mean, it is fine powder.
The point is being made that the ashes are fine powder. However, they can also not be fine powder. It can be a mix of well, yes. Thank you, John. Okay, moving right along. If you are a veteran and want to investigate the benefits and you don't have your discharge papers, I've listed, if you need to get your DD 214 form, here is the website you go to get that. And you need to let people know, do you want a funeral? Do you want a celebration of life? Some people don't. Yes or no? If you don't do that, then goodness, you know, who knows what might happen. Now, because a lot of people don't, if you'll turn to not the next page was the information about the obituary, but the next page is about your actual celebration of life. If you are a member of St. George, you can come and speak with our priest and go ahead and more or less arrange your service, what scriptures you might like, what music, soloist, etc., so that your loved ones don't have to make this decision at the worst time. These are all big decisions, and when you're grieving, it's just extra difficult. Do you want a visitation? And if so, you've got to think about it. Do you want refreshments? Is it going to be at your home? Is it going to be at the funeral home? Etc., etc. Funeral service details are outlined on the attached document. So this is where you would attach, perhaps, the service arrangements. And we do have, you know, a blank funeral bulletin, all of the materials you need to hand that over to the priest and the staff of the church to handle your arrangements. And, you know, do you want pallbearers? Who's going to do the readings? Etc., etc. There's a lot to think about. And again, another reason to look at this every year, because last year I wanted, you know, Johnny B. to be a pallbearer. Not so much this year. Changed my mind. You know. We've talked about music, flowers, video. I know at least one person in the audience that has already made a video for their loved ones. Committal. Is there going to be a graveside service? Do you want your ashes, again, example here, to be interred in the memorial garden? Reception afterwards. Now, this can be very costly. If you have a funeral at 11 o'clock, everybody expects lunch. If you do it at 1, it's just refreshments. Just a handy tip. And the churches typically don't provide all of that food. It would be the responsibility of your loved ones, if you did want that to happen, to pay for the food. Then at the bottom of this page, it's got the top 10 funeral foods and the top 10 funeral music. This comes from a book called Being Dead is No Excuse, The Southern Lady's Guide to Hosting the Perfect Funeral. It's quite a funny book, and it has the top 10 songs, top 10 foods, the top 10 flowers. No self-respecting person would have carnations in their arrangements. It's all tongue-in-cheek, but it is quite funny, and it's filled with wonderful recipes. And the last one, I almost put in here as a joke. It's helpful tips for writing thank you notes. I don't know about you, but I don't know if my children would actually write thank you notes. In the future, it might be a text or a phone call, whatever. It's okay. Nikki? Yes, they will. And that's all in that document. Yeah. Right, right. Well, I think we all know the benefit of the thank you notes. It's just the fact that those we leave behind, whether they will appreciate it as much as we do. And that information, the fact that often the funeral homes will provide sympathy card, or thank you cards rather, to you. Right. If you go back to the funeral responsibilities page and come down to number 11. Good timing, Carol. If you want, in lieu of flowers, if you'd like for people to make a donation to a charity, here is where you would put it. Or to a church. Now, I love number 12. Location and description of items to be destroyed. Oh, am I getting red? And last but not least, if you have written those letters or whatever, where are they? So your loved ones can give them away. And not just about letters. I know with my grandson, I have started a family history about my family and his family. He's adopted, so he doesn't have a whole lot of knowledge early on. So I've continued to write his letter. And I started this in 2021. Oh, no, I think it was 2020. And I just looked at it again, and boy, it was interesting to read what I had written to him, and I need to add quite a bit more to it. So it's interesting. So with that, gosh, this is great. This is all for today. Any questions? The hospice document, the booklet. It's a booklet. And if you just read through it, Vicki mentioned last week that it does serve as a legal document. So if you want to go ahead and fill that out, if you don't already have arrangements. But that's also, if you don't have a living will, I think your living will would take care of most of that while you're alive. But that, do you want to be on life support, a feeding tube, things like that? They ask you all those questions, and you can fill it in, and then I think it's two people need to sign and be a witness. It doesn't need, I don't believe it needs to be notarized. No, this is just a document that's provided by hospice to take to where your hospital, show your loved ones. It's kind of like a living will without being the official document.
So you're asking about what kind of decisions get made about putting somebody into hospice?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, that's not about whether you, quote unquote, qualify for hospice. And that is another series or a speaker we could bring here as a hospice representative to really talk about what qualifies you to go into hospice, because it has changed. It's not, you're 90 days away from passing. They do a lot more than that. So if that's of concern for people, I'd be glad to arrange that as well. Yes, Nikki?
I had to put my godmother in hospice, and it wasn't really my thought or decision. The doctor basically came to the family and said,
It's
"He's not expected to live for a couple of weeks, and here's a recommendation on where you can get hospice care." And then hospice sends a counselor out to give you all the
Yes, Nikki's making the point that if you need to have someone go into hospice, then her doctor of your aunt referred you to call hospice. They come out with a plethora of counselors, nurses, ministers. It's just incredible. They can provide hospice at your home, or I'm sure many of you know there are many hospice facilities around Jacksonville that are just incredible. And it's all about palliative care. Yeah. Yes?
I just want to say, I think it'd be a great idea to have somebody out from hospice because there's so many things for the caretakers, the families. It doesn't have to mean end of life.
Very true. So I'll do that. We'll do that maybe in the fall, have hospice come out here one Sunday and give us a presentation. So with that, any other questions or comments? Thank you very much. Next week will be fun. Last week, if you saw my FBI, my fireproof box of irreplaceables, I will be bringing that and explaining that to you, and we will be going over things that you really need to have in one place right now. All of your billing information, credit card information, insurance, home insurance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's all on the little handout, the syllabus of what we're going to be talking about next week. But I don't think it will be very long, and there won't be as many handouts next week. So thank you for coming.
So just a quick mention regarding funeral planning. So as a clergy person, I've received a pretty extensive amount of training and now currently have a significant amount of experience helping people plan funerals. And typically it's the religious part of funeral planning, but it doesn't have to be. And specifically, I always offer funeral planning to every member of my church. But quite frankly, I've done it for other members of the community, and I don't mind doing that. I feel like it's a public service that every church should offer to the community that they serve at large, regardless of whether somebody's a member or not. So whether or not you want to have a church funeral, whether or not you are an Episcopalian, if you're interested in having some help with some funeral planning, I am available. My cards are on the back table back there, and you can always just get a hold of the church to get a hold of me. And it's, it's not just simple like, open casket, closed casket, or, do I want to be cremated? It's things like music, poetry, do I want anybody to speak? You can make a lot of really helpful decisions that will really aid your family. It's a trying time when somebody has just passed away, especially if you pass and it's a surprise. It's one thing, I think, it's tough to watch people have long-term chronic illness, but one of the blessings of that is that there's a lot of time for the family to get prepared emotionally for the passing. One of the downsides is the family's had a lot of time to suffer, right? So it's a double-edged sword, and there's no really good or bad way to die. I think they're all difficult. But if it's a sudden loss, the sting and the shock of a sudden loss can be so debilitating and you would assume that because somebody was, significantly elderly that wouldn't be the case. But I've had people who have lost their 100-year-old mom fall apart for months. I mean, and the family, the children are in their 70s and 80s, and their mom was 100, and they just come apart at the seams because they thought she was going to make it to 110. And now that may not seem realistic, but that's what that's where they're at. And so where they're at is they're lost and they're in pain. It's a tremendous gift that you can give to your loved ones to help them get through this process with a. This is amazing. If you filled out every single box on this and handed it to your next of kin, that's like Christmas presents for the next 10 years. I mean, it's a really significant gift. So, Elizabeth, thank you so much for putting this together. Really, just. I want a Viking funeral, by the way. The only way that you can get a Viking funeral in the United States is that a biker gang will do it for you. A Viking funeral is where they push you out on like a rowboat covered with things that will burst into flames, and they shoot burning arrows at the boat once it's a bit offshore. Completely illegal in all 50 states. So I've actually heard of one of them happening, and the way they got it done was they had a biker gang do it for them. I don't know if I'm ready to join the Hells Angels just for that. After dark, exactly. Go in peace to love and serve the Lord, my friends.